We saw in an earlier chapter how you can get text into InDesign and then edit it. Just use the Type tool. But how do you format the text? How do you make it pretty? Let's take a tour through your options for text formatting. I have my brochure document open from my exercise files folder, and I'm going to zoom in here on the left side. I'd like to format this first line of text. So the first thing I need to do, of course, is select it with the Type tool. I'll double-click with the Selection tool, which switches to the Type tool, and then I'll select the text. I could drag over it if I wanted to, but I'm just going to triple-click, and that selects the entire line. If you're familiar with Illustrator or Photoshop, you might be tempted to go up to the Window menu and go look for a character panel. And in fact, you can find one. It's hiding down here in the Type and Tables submenu. But I'm not going to choose it because I don't need to. I already have all the features I need right in front of my face. I'll press the Escape key to close that menu. Just look up here at the top of the screen in the Control panel. Whenever you use the Type tool to select text on your page, the Control panel changes to show you all the formatting you need. Now, technically, the Control panel has two different modes. There's the Character mode, which you get when you click on this little A in the upper left corner, or there's a Paragraph formatting mode, which you get when you click on this little Pilcrow character. That's the name of that character. If you didn't know, it's a Pilcrow. I'll be talking all about paragraph formatting in the next chapter, but for right now, I'm going to stick with character formatting, so I want to make sure that that A is selected. The first item I see in the Control panel, right here, is the Font menu. I can change the font easily simply by clicking on this pop-up menu and choosing a different font. For example, I'll just click on Brush Script. I'm just picking something random here. Or I could come up to this menu, click in it, and then type the name of the font that I'm looking for. For example, I'll just type MYR, and InDesign filters out all my fonts down to the list of just the ones that have MYR in them. So it guesses that I want Myriad Pro, and I can move up and down this list by using the arrow keys on my keyboard. I'll just go down this list, and you can see it changes on the page behind it. Or I could just click on the one that I want. I'll choose Myriad Pro Bold. The next pop-up menu down, right underneath the font, is the Style. I already chose Bold when I was choosing the font, but if I wanted to change it, it'd be easy to change it here. I want to point out that in InDesign, there's lots of redundancy. That is, there's many ways to do the same thing. So you can also change the font formatting by going to the Type menu up here. Here's the same thing. There's the Font menu. But in this case, to change the style, I look inside submenus. So I could choose American Typewriter and then choose Light or Regular or Condensed, something like that. By the way, if I look at the top of my font menu, I see two fonts that are out of alphabetical order. What are those doing there? Well, this is the Recently Used Font menu. This shows me all the fonts that I've used since the last time I launched InDesign. They're all up here at the top of the list so I can get to them quickly. In this case, I don't want to change the font, so I'll hit the Escape key, or I could have just clicked elsewhere on the page. What I want to do is change the size of this font. That's the third item in the Control panel, right here. Right now it's set to 10.5 points. I could choose something out of this pop-up menu here if I wanted to, or I could just type something in myself, like 16 points, and then hit Enter or Return. Now, you know how much I like keyboard shortcuts, so I can't help but give you a little keyboard shortcut that you're going to use all the time. The keyboard shortcut for jumping to the first field of the Control panel is Command 6, or Control 6 on Windows. That jumps right to the first field in the Control panel. In this case, the font field. So I could type a different font if I want. For example, I'll type PAR, and I can see a bunch of other fonts here. I'm going to choose Party. Hit the Enter key, and it applies it. Another key to use is the Tab key. I'll press Command or Control 6 to jump to the top here, and then I can tab from one field to the next. I'll tab to this fourth field, which is the leading field. Leading is the amount of space from the baseline of the text, that is, the line that this text is sitting on right here, and the previous line. That's the definition of leading. But because this text is actually at the top of the text frame, leading has no effect at all. But for the rest of this paragraph down here, it does. I'll go ahead and select some text down here in this paragraph and change the leading. I'm going to change it to, say, 18 points. You'll see the leading, that line spacing changes, but only for the text that I changed. And that's because in InDesign, leading is a character attribute, not a paragraph attribute. And this can cause some real problems when you're laying out pages, because you have to remember to select the entire paragraph, or else you'll get uneven leading throughout that paragraph. This is very different than it works in many other programs. Fortunately, you can change InDesign to work the way you'd expect, to apply leading to the entire paragraph. Let me show you how. I'm going to undo this by pressing Command-Z or Control-Z on Windows, and then I'm going to go to the Preferences dialog box. I'll get there by going to the InDesign menu on the Mac or Edit menu on Windows. And inside the Preferences submenu, I'm going to jump right to the Type pane. Now there's a checkbox in here that's called Apply Leading to Entire Paragraphs, and I'm going to turn that on. I like to think that this checkbox should be labeled Make it work the way you'd expect InDesign to work. So I click OK, and now I'm going to apply that leading again. Set it back to 18 points. There you go. You can see it changes for the entire paragraph, no matter what's selected in the paragraph. Now that's the way I like to work. Now that we've looked at how to change the spacing between lines of text, let's look at how you can change the spacing between individual characters. I'm going to come back here to this heading and triple-click to select the whole line. And then I'm going to look up in the control panel at these two fields up here. The first one on the top is kerning. Kerning lets you adjust the amount of space between two letters on a line. And the second one is called tracking. Tracking is the same as kerning, but it goes across a range of text, not just two characters at a time. In fact, some people call tracking range kerning. Technically, they're both doing the same thing, adjusting the amount of space between characters. But again, you usually use kerning just for two characters at a time and tracking for a whole bunch. That said, even though I have a bunch of text selected here, I'm going to change a kerning value. I'm going to change this pop-up menu from metrics to optical. Optical kerning is a very clever technology in InDesign which actually looks at the shape of each character, and it adjusts the spacing between them very subtly, so you get more even spacing throughout. Now, it doesn't work for all fonts and all sizes, but in most cases, it actually gives you a better result than what you could normally get with a font. In this case, it didn't change very much, but in some fonts, it's really dramatic. I almost always use optical kerning for headings like this. I don't worry so much about it for my body text down here. So optical kerning is changing the amount of space between each character individually, but now let's say I wanted to make the whole line tighter. Maybe apply -5 or -10 to the entire line. I'll do that to the selected line by coming up to the tracking field and choosing -10. You can see that all these characters got -10 together. Now, I'm throwing these numbers around like -5, -10, but what do those mean? -10 means -10 1,000th of an M, and the M is determined by the size of the font. In this case, I'm working with a 16-point font, so the M is 16 points. So -10 tracking, that's -10 1,000ths of 16 points. We're dealing with very small values here. Now, of course, font, size, kerning, these are all just the beginning when it comes to formatting text. In the next movie, we're going to dive deeper and explore more advanced character styling.